February 6, 2023. A couple of reminders at the top of the meeting this evening. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. When making public comment, please do so here at the podium and speak into the microphone so that you can be heard both on the recording and in the room. Begin comments with your name and block of residence, for instance, the 400 block of High Street, when you begin for the meeting record. For everyone who's willing and able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Harris, will you please call the roll of members?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Ahmed.
Here.
Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Mr. Cleese.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz. Ms. Walsh. and President Baquet.
Here. All right, we now jump into our legislative agenda, which is the purpose for tonight's meeting. We have one item on the agenda. Mr. Harris, it's an ordinance for an ordinance for final passage. Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, authorizing referendum on the question of studying the existing form of government and considering the advisability of the adoption of a home rule charter for the City of Lancaster, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect upon passage.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The question before council this evening is whether to put a question or referendum on the ballot in the May primary election, approximately 3 months from now, that would ask voters whether they wish to form a study commission to study a home rule charter for the City of Lancaster. I also think it's important to note that the vote this evening will be the only time during this process that the council will make a decision. Should this pass, here on out will be decided by the voters. Last week, we heard a general information presentation on home rule and the process of forming a study commission. Our presenters, Mr. Sheaf and Ms. Robertson, are here if they are needed to answer any general inquiries this evening. After last week's meeting, I will report that I received feedback from one resident, who was in favor of this ordinance that would put a referendum or question to the voters in May whether they wish to form a study commission. The resident did go on to say that they believe that the city should endeavor to provide as much information as possible to residents so that they can make an informed decision in May, to which I will say that I agree. Should we move forward with this referendum, we will have about 3 months to do so. Mayor Sirachi, to begin our questions this evening, can you please comment on any public engagement or outreach that is planned should we move forward with this decision?
Yes, thank you, Council President. The next step, should Council vote to advance the question on the ballot, would be the identification of potential Home Rule Charter Study Commission members. That process begins on February the 14th. And I'm just going to walk through the process, and I'm going to look to Kelly and Andrew to flag where I may be incorrect. The process is you get a petition, and you need to collect 200 signatures. To aid in both the public education regarding home rule and the collection of signatures, the city is planning to have, again, we have not set dates for this because we're pending your decision, 4 dates for meetings in each of the 4 quadrants of the city. Those meetings will begin with an overview of what home rule is and the question that will be on the ballot and the role of a study commission. That will be followed by a half hour in which all of the individuals who are running to be study commissioners will be invited for petition signatures. So this will be both an informational event and a signature collection. There will be no limitations on the number of individuals that are invited. Anyone who is seeking to become a study commission member is welcome to come to those meetings and to collect signatures at that time. Of course, we can't guarantee that in those 4 meetings you will have 200 signatures, but there will be 4 opportunities for the public to meet potential study commissioner members and to have conversations with the public about why they are seeking this role. As was stated, this is a very public, community-oriented process. That means that the public needs to understand more about how to answer the question, and then, as you are aware, if this goes forward, people will be asked to vote on whether or not a commission should be established, a Home Rule Study Commission should be established, and if so, to select 9 commissioners. It's very important that we have 9 that are going to run, and I believe that we will actually potentially have more than 9, potentially. And it's also incumbent that anyone who's signing a petition can only sign for 9 people and no more. So that is the potential next step, should council proceed with the adoption. And we're trying to make this as transparent and accessible to the general public, because not everyone has had the opportunity to knock on doors and collect signatures, if you've never done this before. And also it's cold. The petitions have to be collected between February 14th and March the 7th. And so we just want to make as every opportunity possible to make this process as accessible for everybody who wants to potentially throw their hat in the ring to be a study commission member. We'll say that the job description for a study commission member is an 18-month commitment. The first 6 to 9 months are pretty intense, and we are talking with the Pennsylvania Economy League about potential support in that process of collecting information. And then, so there's the first part, which is the research, then there's the deliberation. If the commissioners decide not to proceed with home rule, they make a final report, and that's that. If they decide to proceed with home rule, then there's the process of drafting the charter. But that is like from May, decision date, that's an additional 6 to 9 months down the line. So that takes us really to the end of this year, beginning of next year, just to paint the picture of the timeline. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Mayor Sirachi. I'm going to open it up to questions or comments from other members of council.
Mayor,
Councilor Craig.
thank you. Thank you, Council President. The petition process, will potential candidates have the ability to get the petitions prior to the 14th? So when the 14th is upon them, they can...
So the County Board of Elections is responsible for providing the petitions, and the petitions will be available on February the 14th, thus the start of the petition signing period. And so potential commissioners would need to go to 150 North Queen Street to the Board of Elections and get a petition there. And so that process then leads up until collecting signatures through March 7th. And the one thing that I left out is that the petitions have to be notarized. And we are going to plan a notary. We will have notaries available to all study commission members prior to March the 7th, maybe that Sunday evening, for anybody who is circulating petitions to come back here and to have a notary available to notarize those petitions. The study commissioner, the person who's seeking that role, would then need to drop them off back to 150 North Queen by March the 7th.
And when they pick up the petitions, I'm assuming that voter registration someone there will guide them through how to fill out the petition properly.
Yes. And that information is very clear in the DCD guidance, and we will make that information available on the website as well about how to fill out that top part. It's really your name, your address, and that you're seeking the office of a Home Rule Study Commissioner. It's not that complicated, so I just want to let everybody know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. Other questions from council? All right, at this time, I'm going to open it up to comments from the public. Quick reminders again, please make your comment at the podium, speak into the microphone so that you can be heard here in the room and also on our recording. Comments are limited to no longer than 3 minutes in length, and I will keep time just to make sure that anyone who wishes to speak does get 3 minutes. We will endeavor to be as fair as possible with that. And again, please begin your comments with your block of resident and your name for the record. Anyone who wishes to make comment on this item? Good evening.
Good evening. Is it on?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Mayor, for outlining the process that you have planned out. My name is Susie Hoover. I'm from the 200 block of East King Street, 22-year resident in the city. I'm just going to give a little background because a lot of people haven't read the home rule book. I actually sat down and did it. In reviewing the status information, the home rule in Pennsylvania publication, pages 102 through 104, there are 83 home rule charters, with 24 being cities, not townships or boroughs in the state. In studying the population of the state's 24 home rule cities, the population can be like Pittsburgh at 303,000 to Farrell City with a population of 4,223. Of these 24 cities, 18 of them have had a decreased population since 1990, which I think we all know. Lancaster's population has been steady. The City of Lancaster's classification is an optional third city class city charter. In the state, there are 11 cities with this charter. On January 3rd, 1966, Lancaster adopted an optional third-class city charter. This classification moved the city from a third-class city and gave it more control over its operations. The process is interesting to review. On April 11, 1962, Lancaster put forth the question of becoming an optional third-class charter and setting up a charter commission. On November 6, 1962, it was put on the ballot through Lancaster City. This provided commission candidates 8 months to decide whether to participate, to get their petition signed and registered for the November 6, 1962 election. The question passed, and the commission began its work. The Charter Commission's final report recommended the optional third-class city charter in 1963. On November 5th, 1963, the recommendation was put to a vote where it passed. It became effective January 3rd, 1966. I do want to say additionally, on page 48 of the Home Rule in Pennsylvania publication, it states, quote, "Voter education was found to be a problem where too short a time was allowed for the public to consider a charter." I am very open to evaluating home rule, though I think this process is being rushed. Thank you very much. Was I right on time?
Sorry, just about. Thank you, Ms. Hoover. Further comments from the public? Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Tony Dastra, 700 block New Holland Avenue. So, question. This is going up at a general election. So, do all the commissioner candidates, are they listed on the ballot with their affiliation, or is that left off in the primary election?
This is a nonpartisan position, so no one would be listed under any political party.
Okay.
The stipulation would be that you would have to be a registered voter to participate, but doesn't stipulate which party.
Okay, so I do like that. However, I will say, from the perspective of a third-party person, or not part of the two major parties, we don't typically participate in primaries, and ballot questions coming up on primary elections, whether it's a state, well, typically in a state issue can sometimes be considered contentious and, you know, a tactic. So I personally am looking to do these petitions myself to vie for candidacy. I do think that this is worth looking into, and I think we should pursue it, although I think this is referendum best held in a general election when voter participation is higher. That's just my personal take on it. I feel great about this. I'm glad the mayor put this forward. But I just think that the general election is a better time to have this sort of decision rather than the primary, although I do understand the timetable. Thank you for your time, and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Dastra.
And if I may, Council President, just to add that so Tony, when the decision is actually made, whether or not to adopt a home rule charter, it will be made in a general election. So that will be very important. Yep.
Good evening.
Hi, my name's Diana Martin. I live on the 200 block of East Chestnut Street. I'd like to start by just commending both the mayor and all the councilors for having a difficult conversation about the future of our city. We're in the unusual position right now where we have ARPA funds that are helping us balance the budget for the next couple years. And it would be easy enough to kind of kick this can down the road for a couple years and come to our fiscal cliff in 2026 and have someone else deal with that problem. But that's not how we do things in Lancaster. So I appreciate having this conversation now when we actually have the opportunity to think hard about our future. And I do think, Lancaster, we're at our best when we have challenges and we come together as a community and we work hard on those solutions and we think about the best options. And that's why I'm in support of this ordinance and putting the Home Rule Study Commission on the ballot. I think we should let the voters decide if we want to pursue this commission. If we have the commission, they'll have 9 months to decide if we want to consider home rule and another 9 months after that to draft a charter if we move forward. And I think during that time, we'll have a lot of opportunities for public education around what that charter says. I know I'm part of an organization that's committed to being part of that education. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing, I think we just need more information about how we move forward for the city's future. They say the only two sure things in life are death and taxes, and let's figure out what the taxes are and the revenue options that we need that make the most sense for Lancaster. So I encourage us to move forward with this process. I'm eager to learn more, and I'm eager to continue to work with Harrisburg, where ultimately Harrisburg really has the opportunity to reform some of the municipal government's issues that really would be to the best service of third-class cities like Lancaster. So I don't think we should give up on Harrisburg. I'd like to see us continue the conversation there and just want to voice support today for putting this question on the ballot. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. Good evening, Mr. Stoldreyer.
Tim Stuhlder, One United Lancaster. On the ballot, will there be any information about the commission candidates other than their name? I'm guessing probably not. If so, how will the city inform voters about the background of the candidates?
Sure, good question. So I don't believe the ballot allows for any sort of additional information, just from my experience of being on a ballot in the past. Mayor Sracci, is there any thought about introducing the folks who run for the study commission?
Yes, when we get to March 7th, an idea that we've been kicking around, and obviously I'm looking at somebody who's asking from the media, recognizing that there's other media in the room, that you would also help in educating the public about the study commissioners, but that there would be an opportunity if a study commissioner has successfully completed the petition and we have confirmation that their name is going to be on the ballot, that we would provide a list of those individual names on the City of Lancaster PA.gov/home rule, that they would have the opportunity to present a short bio about why they're seeking to be a home rule study commission member, and maybe a little bit about their background. But we haven't quite gotten that far yet, again, because we need tonight's vote in order to continue to kickstart the planning process. We do want to make sure that we're having neighborhood meetings and opportunities for petitions to get signed. And then once we know what the pool is of those folks, certainly we'll be looking to you and others to help elevate information about home rule study candidates.
Thank you, Mayor Sracci. Any further comments from the public? Good evening.
Good evening, Arthur Morris, 400 block of West Chestnut Street. I could just hit my watch. When the public raised concerns about this rush legislation at the last meeting, you stressed the urgency to move forward with this action because of an impending financial cliff facing the city. Why are you raising such a possibility as justification for rushing your action? The most important duty of the mayor and council is the passage of balanced budgets. Since 1966, mayors Monahan, Scott, Morris, Stork, Smithcole, Gray understood their role to manage city finances. All of them faced the revenue limits imposed by our Commonwealth. Most of them lamented this, but they did their duty in providing soft landing each year and not taking us towards a financial cliff. Council voted unanimously to approve the mayor's $141 million 2023 budget, an increase of $10 million, which included tax and fee increases for just about everything. Council made no meaningful revisions. In essence, you rubber-stamped it, even though the executive office headed by the mayor has a budget of $1.87 million, which is a 17.7% increase over 2022. The three highest paid staff in the mayor's executive office have received the following substantial pay increases. Chief of Staff, 2021 was paid $97,000. 2023, $132,000, an increase of 36% over 2 years. City Solicitor, 2022 budget, $128,000, $145,000 in 2023, an increase of 13.3% in 1 year. The Neighborhood Engagement Officer was hired $61,800 in 2019. Their salary in 2023 is $119,000, or a 93% increase in 4 years. 23 mid-level employees received increasing averaging 14% last year at total cost of $200,000 to the annual budget. The building code chief, 2022 salary of $87,000, raised $36,000 to $123,600 this year. The Office of Neighborhood Engagement, created when Mayor Sarachi took office, is budgeted to spend $550,000, including fringe benefits this year. These increases, and there are many more, are certainly in the purview of the mayor and council. However, surely, council, when you approved the budget, you understood these increases have consequences. Any financial cliff projected by you, in my opinion, is self-created. You should not use your lack of oversight on budgets as an excuse to rush this decision before you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Good evening.
Hi, Dina Mayonis, 500 block of East Chestnut Street. I just would like to see if there's confirmation that city council members would not be allowed to run for the commissioners panel.
There's nothing that legally precludes them. Any elected official, and I was wrong about this, I thought that there was a preclusion, but any elected official can in fact run to be a member of the study commission. Am I correct about that?
Thank you.
Darlene Bird, sorry I'm late, but we were meeting this new superintendent candidates at the school district, so I was at that meeting. But I do have a concern about, and I don't know if it was discussed already, if we talked about how many commissioners you would vote to have, 7, 9, or 11. Has that been a discussion yet?
I believe the number we would be looking for is 9.
You were looking for 9. I was going to
Yes.
recommend 9. I still do think that is a good thing that we look at everything that we can as far as reason to cut taxes. But I do think, don't be a rush to judge. I still think that we have time and it will work out. I think it's really quick. But I do believe that we should explore every option that we have that might, give residents a tax break or a tax cut. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Good evening.
Lisa Colon, 400 block of North Prince Street. I would like to reiterate Dina's question, however, make it more pointed. Will each of you confirm tonight that you will not put your names in for the commission?
Lisa, I appreciate your question. Dana sat down before I could answer. I can only speak for myself, but I've mentioned this before. I'm not seeking to be a commissioner on this commission. And I will allow any other counselors that would like to answer Ms. Colon's question to do so at this time.
Council President, if I may.
Counselor Ahmed?
I would also like to publicly, for the record, state I am not going to seek appointment to this commission. Council President, if I may.
That's fine. Go right ahead.
I also do not intend on running for a commissioner seat.
Do not intend or will not.
I will not.
Okay.
And I will not either.
I will not either.
Council President,
Counselor Diaz, welcome.
I will not.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mimi Shapiro, the 200 block of North Concord Street. This is just a question, since it's not a national election. Can independents vote in this, or is it only this or that?
They would be able to vote on this referendum question.
Only?
Yep, that's
Okay.
correct.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Yeah.
I am for it, because I think studying and learning more about what we need to know is important for figuring out how we go forward before the cliff.
Thank you.
Council
any-
President, I had an additional question.
Counselor Ahmed?
This was for the mayor and the administration. I see that we're looking at having 4 meetings regarding the petition process. Have we thought about, if this were to move forward, having more meetings and more possibilities for engagement from community members who may have questions?
Yes, and I will just say that any commissioner that is considering a run or any time throughout this process that has questions, Andrew and Kelly, as representatives from DCED, are available, and I'm putting you out there, but you said this essentially the last time, available to take questions, as am I. And then there are additional resources that are available on the city website as well. And the 4 meetings are the only 4 meetings that we've thought about right now before the vote is just during petitions circulating. But I imagine that after March 7th, when the petitions are done, that there will be more public education that will happen between March, April, and May the 16th. So there'll be additional months to do additional engagement. Our Office of Neighborhood Engagement is reaching out and working to identify locations for at least those first 4. And I know that I have had inquiries from different neighborhood groups about whether or not I would be willing to come and speak to them about home rule, of which I am obviously happy to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council President.
All right, I'll ask again if there's any additional I'm sorry. I'm gonna throw it back. Good evening. Hello.
Good evening. My name is Sean Domensic, 400 block of Fremont Street, Catholic worker in the city. Many people, some people here at least, might know that I've been speaking about the right to rest here. This is my 10th comment on it. I've been doing that for over 4 months. I'd like to note that I'm impressed with the speed at which the city can bring something to vote when they want to. And I commend them for that agency, that action. I'd like to encourage them to do likewise with the right to rest, which again is the right for homeless people or anyone who is unable to find housing, and shelters are all full right now, as they've been for some time, to sleep in the public parks without being potentially criminally cited by police. I'd also like to note that if that's an issue that deserves further study, I personally would be interested and open, happy to volunteer for leading a study commission on the right to rest, if you'd like to add that to this study commission as well. But with all that said, I do want to also note that I am in full support of this study commission and of home rule in general, with one caveat, that rather than base the seeking of home rule on the balancing of budgets or the technical management and pushing of levers and buttons in city finance, that rather we should base it on ideals and principles, as we should all legislation and law. A love of Lancaster, a care for political participation, and the greater opportunity that home rule would allow to the citizens of Lancaster through their elected representatives. So again, I thank you for opening this study commission. I encourage you to continue considering the question of the right to rest and to take as prompt action on that as you have on this. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. Councilor Khalid, you had another comment?
No, thank you. It's just a question. I think it's for the administration or maybe for the mayor. How will the commissioners engage and involve the community in their work?
So once the study, if this were to proceed tonight, and the study commissioners were elected, 9 commissioners are elected on May the 16th, they are required to meet within 10 days to take their oath of office and to essentially begin to establish their work plan. It is incumbent upon the Home Rule Study Commission members to have public hearings. And most communities have typically 3 public hearings, but they can have more. And I would understand that the Home Rule Study Commission would engage the administration in helping to promote those meetings and invite the public to at least 3 hearings, depending on how the process goes, as well as to engage media and to share their progress as it relates to their work plan. But these are commissioners that are operating independently of me, of City Council, on behalf of the entire citizenry of the City of Lancaster. The way that DCED describes the best Home Rule Study Commissioner is a person who brings a variety of different experiences, of course, but one that has an open mind, who does not have a fixed or formed opinion about home rule, but is willing to explore and ask questions about the current form of government and to compare and contrast that with what home rule might provide. And then to be able to articulate their recommendations at the end of that process to the public. So it's really incumbent upon the study commissioners to figure out what that process is. And then, of course, for the city to elevate their findings and to share that such that more people can continue to engage.
Okay, another question. What will happen if along the way a commissioner, can't keep working?
So if there's a resignation.
How do we replace?
Yes, they're replaced by the Home Rule Study Commission members, as I understand it, if there is a vacancy. Is that right, Andrew? Yes. And they have a certain amount of time to do that within. Okay. Or maybe not. Can you approach the microphone so everybody can hear? Sorry. Andrew Sheep from DCED.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you. I have to look up the amount of days they have to replace a vacancy. But they are replaced by the commission members themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any additional public comments on the ordinance?
I just want to ask one question when it comes to participation. We say it's required that they have 3 meetings. Is there a requirement that people attend? And I say this because I know when we do the CDBG monies that you're required to have a meeting, and even if nobody shows up, you met that requirement and you didn't get feedback. So I want to know if there's anything in there that's going to say there must be participation and not just that you have to have a meeting, that there has to show that there's a portion of the community and is involved in the whole community, not a room of just like Northeast comes and the whole room's there and you didn't get no input from other areas of the city. Is there anything that's going to require that, or it's just required a meeting is held?
So it sounds like there's 2 questions, if I may clarify, and then Andrew, you can speak to this. Is there an attendance requirement for the commissioners? So would they be penalized or removed if they didn't fulfill their duties? Obviously, they'd be taking an oath in office. The second part of that question would be, is there a requirement for those public hearings to have a certain number of people there? I'm going to imagine that no, it's probably not to that level of detail, but as the mayor just stated, it would be incumbent upon the commissioners rather, to publicize and work with the administration who is amenable to publicizing those with local media to make sure that those meetings are well attended. Andrew, can you speak to the attendance requirement portion for the actual commissioners? I know this is getting in the weeds of details, but it is
Sure.
important.
No, it's a good question. But I'm not aware of any requirement, attendance requirement in the statute
Mhm.
for a home rule study commission.
Right.
It's an incumbent upon them who've run for the position and are fulfilling its duties to show up and to be a participating member. But it's extremely hard in Pennsylvania to remove an elected official from their office, no matter what board they're on. And that's, I think, extends into something like this as well. And attendance are the amount of people that would potentially need to show up to a hearing. No, I'm not aware of anything in statute about that.
So it sounds like it is imperative that the voters make their selection of who is participating very carefully. Thank you. Are there any other public comments on the ordinance? Hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Ahmed.
Aye.
Mr. Roya.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz. And President Beke.
Aye. Thank you very much. And thank you for everyone who came up and gave comment during these meetings and participated. With that, our legislative agenda for this special meeting has concluded. I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion
To adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our special meeting is adjourned. We will take a brief 3-minute recess to allow anyone who would like to leave at this time. We do have a regularly scheduled committee meeting that will begin again in 3 minutes.